Welcome. I'm Sebastian Mahfood, and you're listening to WCAT Radio, the on-air wing of En route Books and Media, bringing you the dulcet sounds of Catholic wisdom.
Lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust consumes, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to True Wealth. I'm Dave Basconi, and here in the studio with me is Maria Smith. Good morning, Maria.
Good morning, Dave. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself? We're getting close to Christmas here. Are you relaxed and calm, or are you caught up in the frenzy?
I almost never. I try very hard not to get caught up in the frenzy. It was much more difficult when my 4 children were little because there was a lot more to do. And also when they're little and you have to hide the presents and you have to trap them when they're not around, it's a lot more going on. But now my youngest is 14, and so we don't do as many presents, and, I don't have to. So it's not as much. And I really try very hard not to, and especially now that my children are older, I'm trying hard not to. I have always, since I was a young person, really disliked the commercialism, the frenzy. I don't like frenzy in any way, and I think it's even worse during Christmas. I mean, oh my goodness, if you get me started talking about Christmas, we might want to talk about it next. We won't have time for any other discussion because I have so many strong opinions on Christmas because I really think we do such a disservice to our Lord. It's Christ Mass, Christmas, and how many even religious people really, truly focus on that. I mean, even myself and in my family, I mean, oh my goodness, it's the presents, it's the cards, it's the lights. It's the secular Christmas music, which really should be much more Advent now. Advent music, so it's all that, and it's just, I do like certain things about it, but now as I get older, even the things that I've liked for decades, still to me make it more of a frenzy, more of a hectic pace, more of a distraction where you're not really understanding what it is.
Yeah, I think for sure. It's gotten worse over the years. I mean, it seems like the stores are decorating for Christmas much earlier than before. And it's when I was a kid, it was, I don't know, for one, we didn't have a big Christmas, and that was good looking back. And but it was really special. As a kid, I can remember just being with family, going to church, waiting for that big day. And now it's just, I think, overrun with like all the things you mentioned, the commercialism, the frenzy, and all of that. And instead of you being relaxed and, calm on the day that we should be, we're probably exhausted. And that probably is just because of weeks of all the preparation when it should have been more in time of prayer, contemplation, and things like that.
Well, it should have been a preparation. You're right. It is definitely a preparation, not the way the world sees it, though. That's the problem.
Yeah.
The preparation should be above all spiritual, above all, and principally, which means the vast majority of it should be a spiritual preparation, and then secondarily, the festivities. Obviously, you have to have food even on a normal day, and you should have better food on such a high feast day. And some decorations and cheer, and and there should be some. Oh, actually, I don't know if you know this, Dave, but you might because you are of Italian origin. But for up until very recently, I don't know if it was all of Europe, but it was definitely Italy. Children did not get any presents on Christmas Day at all. They got them on Epiphany because that was when the wise men brought gifts, presents to the baby Jesus.
Oh, you know what? No, we were pretty traditional. It was Christmas Day, but really, did you ever get presents on Epiphany and not...
Only when I was in Italy. Nobody gave presents to their children on Christmas Day. Christmas was Jesus Christ, and then you go to Mass, and family comes for dinner. That's it.
Oh, wow. That sounds really good.
That's it. Now, you prepared for that. I remember you prepared for Christmas. My mother would tell me. I didn't because I was a child when I came here. But and I don't know, because I lived in Italy for a while in my 20s. I think I did go to a special Mass, which was called the 9 Lamps, kind of like a novena, but you were getting ready for Christmas. That was one of the things they did to prepare for Christmas by going to a special, I think it was a dawn Mass, a very early Mass. My mother told me she would do that when she was younger. So that was one way of preparing for Christmas. There were no gift giving among adults at all, period. Absolutely none. Unless it was some food thing like, here, I know you like this food, take it with you, or something like that. No gift giving whatsoever. This is a very poor town. Most of the people are very poor. And then the children got simple, few gifts on Epiphany. Not Epiphany Sunday, because Epiphany was Epiphany Day, January 6th. Whenever it fell, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that's when they would get a few gifts. And they looked forward to that because, children love gifts. But Christmas was not about them.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds like a really good way to do it. It's the focus on what it should be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the kids still, and really only small kids. I mean, if kids are old enough to make any money of their own, really, this whole commercial thing, and then it's just too much. And it's really, you can even say if the devil can't get you by doing evil, he'll get you to do things that are seemingly good just to get you distracted and harried.
Yeah, right. That's right, because your focus is no longer on Christ. It's on the good gifts that you're giving to all your friends and relatives and family, and it makes you look.
Yep, and saving money and going to the sale and getting up early after Thanksgiving to get the best sales and all that stuff. And it's just really not the peacefulness and the love and the adoration that we should be giving God, who will give us peace in our soul. I mean, these are the things that really are the great gifts, the virtues.
Yes, I agree with you. Wow, that was good. I'm glad you brought that up. That's a very interesting take on how to handle Christmas. As for me, I'm not frenzied. Do you know why?
Because you have your horses to keep you calm.
Well, that's one. That's an ongoing. That's a 365-day-a-year process. But the reason I'm not frenzied is my wife does all the shopping.
Well, frankly, if you had to take a survey of Christmas and who gets frenzied, men or women, here again, it's an inequality because you will find, I don't know how many women get frenzied. And obviously, when my kids were younger, and there's years that I would do Christmas cards, and I would stay up seriously till 3 or 4 in the morning trying to get the Christmas cards written while my kids were sleeping. So that otherwise, you're writing a card, Mom, not, and what are you doing then? Whatever, but it was, I really tried not to, but I have gotten into that frenzy thing when the kids were little, when I had all 4 little kids here, and it was just, it was very hard. But, take a survey and see how many women, oh my goodness, because even if men buy presents, and some men do, even if they buy them, who do they ask to wrap them?
Well, not only that, but I think most men tend to buy presents just for their wife. And, their wife buys for everybody else. For one, and it seems to be women like to shop a lot more than men. And the other thing is, I guess, who does the wrapping? I think sometimes when men buy the present, they ask the store to wrap it because that's
if they can, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a feature that they offer now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And I can wrap a decent present. Growing up in a hardware store, we used to offer that service, and so I had to wrap. Oh,
there you go. See, yeah. So some men do wrap presents.
That's one of my list of skills I can offer an employer if
yes. It's a good skill. But if you ever need to go work in a department store again or even part-time during the Christmas rush, I want these things about you. Yeah, but and some men do help, even with Christmas cards or with cooking. Some men do, but the vast majority of the burden falls on women. And I really think women should just say, hey, look, I want to prepare for Christmas in a more spiritual way. I want to prepare for Christ. I want to prepare for Mass, for Christmas, Christ's Mass. I want to prepare for his coming in the right way. I'll do some things, and also, the topic we were thinking of talking about, which I had mentioned to you, really and truly is very much tied to Christmas and to this gift-giving, materialistic culture that is becoming global now, especially with the utility, with the use of online shopping. I mean, people don't even have to live near stores or don't even have to wait till they can go to a store. And I do like the convenience of online shopping. I think gift-giving is beautiful. I think Christmas lights can be beautiful. Songs are beautiful. I think all these things are beautiful. But if they take away your peace of soul, if they take away your ability to just be with Jesus, to really, it's not worth it. It's not right. It becomes an evil. A good thing, something that is either neutral or good, can become evil if you allow it to take you away from God. And what the topic was, narcissism, which is what I said, that I was listening to a wonderful little video with actually it's a Spanish priest, because I'm trying to learn Spanish. And I listened to him because he speaks clearly and slowly, and then I look at the subtitles in Spanish, which also is very helpful. And he was talking about hypocrites, because in the Bible, in the New Testament, oh my goodness, there's a lot of passages about hypocrites. And our Lord Jesus was very harsh with those he called hypocrites. He wasn't harsh with the other sinners. He wasn't harsh with the woman caught in adultery. He wasn't harsh with the tax collector who went up in the tree. He was harsh with the hypocrites, with the Pharisees, with the upstanding people, the upstanding men and upstanding people of his time. With them, he was harsh. As I was listening to this video by this young priest from Honduras, I believe he is, Padre Sam, he was talking about all these things about the hypocrites. It was based on the passage of Matthew chapter 23, and he was saying all these things about hypocrites, and I was going, wow, because I'm studying counseling and I'm studying certain things, and then there is so much information about narcissism now, either just the more fundamental narcissism where people are arrogant and self-centered, or the NPD, which is the narcissistic personality disorder, which is taken to a more extreme. But they're all very much interrelated. Anyway, so before I go any further there, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah. No, it's that book you referenced before the show. I had a chance to take a look at it. And I think the opening discussion on Christmas ties right into where we've slid to. And it's a very self-centered world. The title of the book, Narcissism Epidemic, Living in the Age of Entitlement, that is certainly what has happened over the last, several decades, and I think it's accelerated over the last one or two with the technology that we have. I was just looking a little bit at what the book was saying, and it cited some things that I could relate to in that, today every kid gets a trophy. I remember when my boys were young and in Scouts, at one meeting, there was going to be a scouting event in which there were going to be some contests, and it was brought up that maybe we should get the winners some small trophies just to, show that they accomplished something. And one father brought up the fact that, oh no, we can't do that. We have to get trophies for everybody. In other words, what we call participation trophies today. And I really have a problem with that, and it was voted down, but it was brought up, and there were a couple of people that were for it. And so I think it had its roots back then, and this was back in the 90s. And like I said, I think it's just gotten far worse since then. I run into it every day because I'm very sensitive to it. One thing that caused me to roll my eyes years ago, and again, this was, I think, something that was new. I was in a large chain grocery store in the bakery section, and they showed where they could put your child's face on their birthday cake. Have you ever seen that?
Yes,
you know
yes, I have, yes.
Okay, I don't know. I when it first came out, I just saw and go, you know, this is not going in the right direction, because I already thought that we were putting our children on a pedestal, and that this was just one more step in causing them to maybe get self-centered rather than teaching a life lesson about, you know, we need to, as children, we need to respect our elders, and then focus on other people. You know, it was a lesson in humility. That it was not a lesson in humility when that's what we should be teaching our children. So over the years, I've seen it get worse in lots of different ways, and I don't think it's a good thing for society, because the more self-centered, the more narcissists that are out there, it just, I think, takes society in the wrong direction. It takes it away from God. That's the way to say it. You have a choice, and we've talked about this. It's either you follow the culture or you follow Christ. Which shepherd do you follow? That was a show we did, a 3 months back. Which shepherd do you follow? The culture or Christ?
Exactly. It's very hard not to follow the culture. Not to follow the culture requires supreme effort. To follow the culture just requires that you drift. It's easy. It's like, oh yeah, everybody's doing it. I'll do it too. Oh yeah, everybody's doing it. Sure, why not? To not do it, it's like everybody's doing it. I don't believe in it. I'm going to stand for what I believe. It requires strength. It requires total strength. This is where God says we have to love Him with our whole heart, soul, mind, and physical strength as well. It requires every aspect of us. And to get back to the birthdays, that's something else that, like Christmas, has been very difficult, raising several children with birthdays, and then their friends have birthday parties. We were more part of a homeschooling community who did not, and the parents did not do a birthday party every year for all their children, especially because many of them had large families too. Some did more, but some did less. So with my children, what I did was they didn't have a birthday. We didn't have a birthday for them every single year. For a family one, yeah. And actually, my children, even when they didn't have a birthday with friends, had one when they were younger. With one set of grandparents would go to, then would go to the other set of grandparents. My children often had 3 birthdays. We had one on their actual day at our home. Then on the weekends, we'd go and to both grandparents' house, and they'd have another cake and get a few presents from them. But I did my best. Materialism was always something from when I was a child that I really don't like, and that really, it's not part of my nature. Not to say that I don't get attached to things, I do, but I don't like a lot of stuff. It actually overwhelms me, no matter what it is. Too many presents, too much food, too much anything. I'm like, it's too much for me. I don't like it. Some people, want more and more. I tend to want more and more spiritual stuff, so I can be greedy in that. So it's not like, I've got it all under control. No way. But that has never been a part of me. So now I wanted to mention something else, too. You brought it to mind. Because my hometown in Italy was a Christian culture. Not that people really understood their faith, but boy, oh boy, did they believe it and did they follow it. And, of course, because they didn't really understand it, it also went into some negative aspects with superstition. They really believed in the supernatural. But one good thing I want to say about birthdays, they didn't celebrate birthdays. They celebrated name days. Then your name with whatever saint is associated with your name. So you would celebrate it on that day. Now, I wasn't there all my life, but I was there in my 20s, and I was there as a small child. And basically with your name day, you would have people over and you would buy sweets, because they didn't have sweets very often at all, so it was a real treat. And I don't know, you got a few little presents, but nothing much. It wasn't your birthday. I mean, I don't really know what they used to do. I mean, now it's different, of course. I don't even know when I was young what they used to do for birthdays. Actually, I have a picture where they were celebrating my birthday, but all it was my relatives, my older relatives. There were no kids there. So maybe they did that for a birthday. They just have a little cake or something. It was not a big thing at all. The name day was more important, which is, you see, basically this all ties in with narcissism and self-centeredness, because if it's your birthday, it's just you. If it's your name day, you are actually looking up to somebody who made it into heaven, who you can use as a hero and a model. Children nowadays, who are their models? They have no models except themselves. They're totally self-centered until they start looking at celebrities, athletes, and are those really the models that we want for our children?
Absolutely not. Once again, that was a great idea. I love that about celebrating the name day. It puts the focus back on where it should be, and it takes it off of the person, the child. I can recall our birthdays, me and my brothers, they were always very small, just family. We never had birthday parties, where a bunch of kids were invited. One is my parents ran a store. There just wasn't any time for it. But the other thing is, had they just not had the store, I don't think they would have done that. They just didn't think that way. They thought the birthday should be recognized, small gifts. We had our cousins and our aunt and uncle come down, and that was pretty much it. And I thought it was great. And to this day, I sometimes almost forget my own birthday. I have to look at the calendar. It's written down there. Okay. Seriously, I've actually, a couple of times looking back, I go, oh yeah, tomorrow's my birthday. I forgot about that. Maybe I should be thinking differently, but nothing seems to change. So, and I consider that a good thing. I'm not. That's not bad at all. But Maria, as you were talking, I was thinking about how when we raise children, the little things that we do as parents that can influence how they think about themselves and what kind of adults they become. And a couple of them. One was I used to play this game with my son, a younger son, 21. It's a basketball game where you stand at the foul line. I'm sure everybody knows it. You've probably heard of it. 21, does that sound familiar?
I played it with my sons too. I like basketball, and I played it, and they play with their father as well. We call it PIG, P-I-G. So if you miss, then you get it. The one who makes that word first is the loser. The other one's the winner. So
actually, that's a slightly different game because we used to play horse. Believe it or not.
Horse. Yeah, we use different names too.
Horse, whatever. How much time you had to. But anyhow, this game with 21, you stood at the foul line, but my son was young, and he was not very good at making the shots. So when we would play, I always won. And I never threw the game. I never let him win just so he could feel good about himself. Here's what happened. As he got older and stronger, I'd see him out there practicing. And it wasn't long that he was giving me a good game. And then shortly after that, he was winning his fair share. Now, I think the lesson from that is, one, he didn't think he was something special because he beat Dad because I threw the game. But I think when he actually won the game, he knew it was genuine. Had I let him win on his own, he probably wouldn't have spent time practicing because he would have thought he was just as good as me, and why practice? So I think he learned a life lesson there, that if you want something and you're not quite good enough, you need to work on it, and then the result will come. That was one thing. And another one that strikes me that I probably did not do what most parents did. I never paid my kids for good grades. When they got to that age where some of their classmates were getting, money for A's and B's, my oldest son approached me and he asked me about it. I said, well, Dave, I don't think I should pay you because at this age, that's what you're supposed to do. When you go to school, that's what you're supposed to do is to get good grades. I don't want you thinking the reason you're getting good grades is because you're going to get paid for it. You need to do it because it's the right thing to do. And you know what? He understood that logic, and he never asked me again about that. And he got good grades on his own. He was self-motivated. And so, once again, I think these little things that we just take for granted and do them because the culture is doing them, everybody else is doing them, sometimes you got to maybe step back and analyze them a little bit and see if there's a better life lesson that can come out of it if you go a different way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Really, we give our children way too much. I've said this before to my friends. I don't know if there's been a time when the average family has given so much to their children and gotten back very often so little. Because look how much respect children give their parents, their teachers, adults, the elderly. There's very little respect. I'm not saying that there isn't any. There are definitely some children. But the vast majority, really don't. So we give them so much and we give back so little. Think back to 100 years. Think back to when you were a child. Think back to other centuries. Children got very little. And did they listen to their elders? Oh, yes, they did.
Yeah, because there were repercussions if you did.
Oh, yeah. And they got very little. They got almost no activities to go to. Very few, what the presents were scarce, and like you were saying, yeah. So there's never been a time that we have given our children so much, and we get back often so little, comparatively speaking.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. And the other thing is, I think any action that we do as a parent or as a friend, it doesn't just have to be with our children. It can be with other family members or friends, is we should really think about our actions and what the result might be, what the outcome might be. Because a lot of times, if you really dig into it a little bit, it's not going to be positive. Sometimes if you do too much, you enable someone to continue bad habits. It's like, as I mentioned, throwing the game when I was playing 21 with my son. I don't think letting him win would have served a good purpose, although it may have made him feel good. But feeling good is not the same as doing good or learning a good lesson. And I think that's what a lot of this today's stuff is. It's just for a feel good. It's very temporary. It has no lasting good effect, or if it has any effect, in a lot of cases, it may be a lasting bad effect. And that gets back to the narcissism that we were talking about, self-centered and all of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it comes down to what you said. Feeling good. Everything, and again, this is really so much because when people get away from God, distance themselves from God, their body becomes all important. The material, the body, instead of the spirit. And when the material becomes so important, you want to feel good. You want to feel good. You want to eat good, eat well, eat good food, delicious food. You want pleasures. You want things that are going to satisfy you materially, physically. And it's feeling good. And unfortunately, that's where we are now. It's just, oh my goodness gracious, can you walk into the store? Can you turn on the TV? And it's better not to. But even if you turn on the computer, anything, it's just really out there. And, when you're meeting with family or friends, and did you see this new movie? And did you do this? It's all feel good, distract. I think the devil really is having a heyday, But we know that no matter how bad things get, that God can bring a greater good.
Yeah, and you used the right word. It's all about pleasure. And pleasure is not happiness. Pleasure is not joy or peace. The culture offers pleasure, and Christ offers peace and joy.
Exactly. Pleasure, exactly. And yeah. And oh my goodness, that's such a huge topic too. That's something that we could actually spend a whole show on, the pleasure and the joy and the peace, and how to really gain true happiness, enduring happiness, which is joy and peace. But we have come pretty much to the end of our show, and I was going to say I had more on the hypocrites, and which also is the Pharisees, of course, the hypocrites, the Pharisees, and narcissism. And I wanted to say more about those because I had done some more research on that. So maybe we can continue this next week, and maybe also talk about Christmas again next week. Yeah,
absolutely. I think the topic is huge and vast. There's a lot of different ways to approach it. Yeah, I have a couple of other thoughts as well. So let's plan to do that. We'll pick up and do part 2 next week.
Okay, and happy last week of Advent to everybody until we get into the last Sunday of Advent, which is coming right up.
It sure is. So, okay, then let's close with a prayer. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Amen. Take care, Maria. Have a good week.
You too, Dave. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
God bless.
Hello, God's beloved. I'm Annabelle Mosley, author, professor of theology, and host of Then Sings My Soul and Destination Sainthood on WCAT Radio. I invite you to listen in and find inspiration along this sacred journey we're traveling together to make our lives a masterpiece and, with God's grace, become saints. Join me, Annabelle Mosley, for Then Sings My Soul and Destination Sainthood on WCAT Radio. God bless you. Remember, you're never alone. God is always with you.
We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT Radio. This is Sebastian Mahfood. Good day.